IBTLS Online. Good to have you with us. Hope you've had a good week. We've had a good week. Lots going on at church. So excited to have church back. Nath is about to interview a really lovely family from our church. You're going to love what they've got to say. They're a beautiful family. We love them lots. And then after that, Nath's going to share. Enjoy.
Hey church, great to have you with us again. I'm here with the whole family today, which is really cool. They're actually my neighbours.
The whole.
Yeah, the whole. I'll say it like a South African. The whole family. Which is we live here in Cronulla, so they're just down the road, literally 200 metres down the road. So we've got Mike, 200? 100? Everyone's in this interview today. Anyway, it's all good. It's about 100 metres down the road, I stand corrected. With Katrina and Mike as the parents. We have Annie, Nick, see, I had a mental blank in these things. Then we've got Samuel and Claudia. So it's good to have you all with us. Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling a bit hot out here? The breeze is picking up.
Yeah, so good.
Cool, so tell us about your background. How did you end up at Revitalise? Where were you before then?
Well, we sort of got Jamie and Kiralee Cushit to blame for that, really, don't we? Yeah, they were the main ones that attracted us along.
Cool.
Before that, we spent about 10 years at Cronulla Presbyterian Church, and then a brief time at St Phil's Anglican.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually it was Kiralee and Jamie, and then the kids. They tried it out with you, and the kids loved the kids' church. There was a jumping castle.
Ah, yes. Everyone loves a jumping castle. True?
Yeah.
Should we have one every week?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
And the church is such great volunteers. Kids' church is never off. It's always on.
It's always on.
No holiday breaks.
Yeah, at Bridgewater every week. Sorry, Annie. And Kim and team and Co. But anyway.
And
Annie's now doing her work experience. What is that for? That's for the Duke of Ed.
Yeah.
Cool. And how are you finding that?
I haven't really started yet.
Oh, okay. You just kind of watch and learn at the moment. Were you in last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And you survived. Are you scared?
No, it was fun.
Oh, good. Excellent. See, learning from a young age. Excellent stuff. So how about you, Mike? Tell us about your background.
So I was born in Johannesburg,
Oh, yeah.
South Africa, and grew up there until I was 13, and then moved to Cape Town, where we lived until I left to go overseas, where I met Katrina, and then I moved to Redgum Avenue.
Here we are. Redgum. Down south.
London to Redgum.
London to Redgum. Is that where you met? Wow.
Well, actually, we met in Paris, but we were living and working in London.
Wow. Pretty cool. Amazing. All right. And so your parents are these 4 beautiful kids. And I drive these 2 to youth. We'll pick them up like once a week for youth. There's always some fun conversations in the car. It's very notable that how you've been dealing with teenagers and smartphones. I've heard all about it. And life phones, it's kind of like a form of punishment that I threaten my kids with now, that if they muck up, I'll take their iPhone off them and give them a live phone and make them read a good book. What's the book you've been reading?
Young Women Living for Jesus.
Young Women Living for Jesus. What's kind of like the tone of it?
It's
Tell us about it.
It's like got 12 different chapters about like purity, responsibility, courage, prayer, like truthfulness.
So
all that
good.
Kind of stuff.
And you had to read it, and then you got your iPhone back.
Yeah.
Did it help you use your iPhone better?
Yeah.
It's still out, a jury's still out on that.
It's early days.
It's early days.
Yeah, after the 2 months
Yeah.
suspension.
How long did you have your phone gone for?
2 months, 3 months and 2 months and 8 days.
Oh, and how many hours?
I wasn't counting that.
I thought you were going to say too much.
Too much. Yeah, it was too much.
You want it too much?
Too long.
Yeah.
Off it for too much.
Oh, I offer for too much. Yeah, right. You can still Instagram on the live phone.
Yeah,
You do everything on the live phone.
What was the problem with the
It
live
wasn't
phone?
an Apple.
It wasn't an Apple.
Bad.
Oh, you like start a new trend with these live phone things. Get a
That's what I
T-shirt.
thought, yeah.
I'm a live phone user. All right. So, any tips about being parents of 4 kids? You guys are doing pretty well here. They look pretty good.
Link up with other families of 4 kids, I suppose. That helps. There's a few of us in Redgum.
That's right.
That would probably be the best, the most useful tip, I think.
Yeah.
Is just teaming up with other
Parents.
and other families.
Staying
Yeah.
sane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
staying connected to
Yeah.
other people and to your kids. I suppose that's also really helpful.
And Nick's a bit of a stunt man.
He's always got an injury.
Because he's your version of Finn for your family. Well, we've got a Finn, you've got a Nick, and it's
Yeah.
just like, visit the hospital every now and then.
And we'll know that someone's got something
Too
happening.
often.
So cool. So what about Revitalise? So how are you finding that? What's your journey here so far? And there we go.
Yeah, it's been great.
Cool.
We only started coming in
March.
March when? It was
Last year.
November. No, 2019.
Oh, okay.
That's right. I saw you guys at the Christmas thing, which was our first kind of event that we were at, the Christmas service.
Yeah, November 2019, and then COVID hit, and we're just getting to know a few people, and
Yeah,
then we're offline for ages.
yeah, definitely
It's great to be back.
offline.
Yeah. That was good and bad, I thought. Like there was benefits of being able to just go straight to the lounge room,
Yeah.
but it's good to be back
Yeah, the routine of it all. Getting 4 kids out the door on a Sunday morning.
without on my own because Mike plays tennis
Oh, yeah.
on a Sunday morning. So he meets me at church. I'll see you there.
Oh, you got the good end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take 2, Nat takes 2, but I'm delegated for 2. They just kind of tag along.
And
They're easy too. They can
that's
dress
on the
themselves.
back of an afternoon of cricket. On
Yeah,
Saturday
right,
afternoon.
okay.
Sure. I have to make sure I help out during the week.
I'm turning into a bit of a family counselling session here right now. I feel like we can delve deep. Sport's a big thing
all
for you.
good.
You like your sport?
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah. You're a mad spear fisherman.
I like to spearfish.
And
yeah.
he's mad, yeah.
Taking my son out in the deep waters off Kurnell Point,
Yep.
avoiding the sharks.
Mixed with the whales out there.
Yeah.
With the whales up there, yeah.
Catching the fish. So you're a bit of an adventure man and got some good stories, I think.
We have.
He's been called Albie Mangle by a few.
Albie Mangle. Very cool.
Well, we helped Finn face a few fears on sharks.
Yeah.
We were spearing just out in Cronulla, and there's only about 2 meters of visibility, and we swam over this really dark patch, and Finn sort of tugged me on the arm and said, I think we've got to go in, Mike, we can't see anything. And I said, no, don't worry, Finn, I haven't seen a shark out here in ages. Let's go on. So we persevered on, and we still ended up with no fish though.
Oh, so cool. All right, we've got a lot of things happening, I guess, in the life of our church and going forward. We've got Easter kicking off, and we've got other things happening, women's and men's and kids and all things. Oh, that's the live phone. That was the live phone striking right at that time.
Dad has an apple.
Oh,
the
Dad has
spearfishing.
an apple. Yeah, but I'm pumped to have lots of families involved in our church, and you guys just looking forward to get to know you more and having you involved with us. So,
Yeah.
thanks for being part of our story and where we're
Thanks for
going
having us.
in the future. So exciting.
It's good to have you in the street as well. How
It
about
is.
that?
Yeah, so good for lifts. Just
so
kind
good
of
for
taking
lifts.
the pressure off.
Yeah.
Drawing short straws over Friday night with
Yeah,
pickup.
who gets pick up, who gets drop off?
Fighting for the drop off.
Fighting for the drop off. That's true. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to have a great Sunday. See you later. Good to have you with us. We're just flowing on from a series that I'm kind of in the middle of at the moment, which is this living in an upside down world and what we have to do as believers. We've just seen New Zealand go into lockdown out of just a couple of cases of COVID, and it can happen pretty quickly. That could happen to us in New South Wales, Sydney, Australia at any moment right now. We've got a vaccine rolling out, but there's still COVID in the air. COVID's in the air. We need to know about it. So there's a couple of things we need to get ready for as a church this year. You know, we've come through a transition process. We've come through COVID. We've come through a lot of different things, and we're just a new baby church. So I really feel in my heart things just to get the church ready for as we're going forward into 2021. And it kind of started with just our focus and what our heart is and what it means to be a believer in this time that we live in. And the other thing, one of the other things I was pulling out is just how we deal with ourselves as we go through this time. This is going to require us to lay down our lives, to look to God, being real believers. And it starts with ourselves. I've got a bit of a plan to just roll out small groups in our church and kind of strengthen those up. And I want to see every believer in our church involved in a small group. And I guess one of the biggest things that we're going to start to get into is what makes us tick as believers. Last week I spoke about the enemy number one being ourselves. If there's an enemy number two, I'm going to talk about it here right now. It's our joy. That's where joy's missing from our lives. If you've got your Bibles there right now, I'll take you to a verse so we can just kind of map this out. It's where Paul's writing to the Corinthian church in 2 Corinthians chapter 7. And he says, if only you knew how proud I am of you, I am overwhelmed with joy despite all our troubles. So Paul's got a lot of troubles going on in his lives, and he's had a good report come back about the Corinthian church, and he's filled with joy. And you think, what's the obsession with joy, with Nath? What's the obsession with joy? So there's two big thoughts here that I want to get into. Two big thoughts. And we have to get back to Genesis, where God's kind of designed us and he's put us together, and he starts to interact with different people in the Bible. And he comes face to face with different people, or he engages with different people. This whole idea where Moses starts to interact with God as he's led the Israelites out of Egypt, and he's up at Mount Sinai, and he's kind of talking to God and having these extended moments with God. And God says, I want to interact with you. And Moses wants to see God face to face, but God says, you can't handle my face. And so he sticks Moses in this cleft of a rock, it says, and he puts him in there, and he goes past him. So Moses can only see his back. That's all he can see, his back. And the whole idea is that I guess many of us think that if we saw God face to face, we would just shrivel up like a raisin, or burn up because of our sin and how what's not good enough, and what everything God hates about us, because we're coming face to face with God. But it's not a fact. The facts are that we would see God's face and we would encounter his joy. The second thought is this whole idea where David in the Bible gets face to face with people, and he builds relationships with people, and they call it heart knitting. It says that I guess the story is that David knit his heart with Jonathan. There's a face to face relationship where they encouraged one another, they built up one another for their calling and their purpose in life as believers. You think, so where does joy fit into all this? Well, when you were born, before you were born, in fact, your mother, her brain began to add cells around this area, which was all around, it's tied to facial expressions and audio-visual kind of voice command and voice interaction with other humans. So that when you were born, your mother, her brain had enlarged to a certain size where she could just show you great love and imprint that love and identity into you. And in a similar way, when you were born, the two areas of your brain that are firing the hardest are your eyesight and your hearing. And what happens over that time is your eyes begin to focus and your hearing is switching on, everything's switched on. You're looking to your mother, and the face-to-face connection that's happening there is kind of putting an emotional imprint into you that's going to shape you for the rest of your life. Now, that sounds pretty heavy, right? Because not all of us get the same kind of parenting. Not all of us have the same kind. Our parents aren't all in the same place emotionally, mentally, all those kind of things. But the facts are, this is what happens. And during that time, we learn how to read people's faces, responses. So if someone's not looking at us and saying, I love you, or hello, or go, doing all the voice things and everything else that go with it, we miss out. We're kind of not getting that emotional charge that goes in around our brain. And what scientists have proved is that the brain trims that area of the brain down so that later in life we don't have that full experience of joy. And it's interesting because God, all of his engagements with us are visual and also verbal, where he's engaging with us, and it deals with that part of our brain. Joy is a big thing because you think it's not just about overcoming trials and tribulations. It's not just, so we're happier people. It's not just I feel happy about life kind of state of joy that we're talking about. We're talking about something that brings us back or helps us interact with other human beings. So when we're doing our small groups, or we're leading people, or we're following or sharing our lives with a mentor or coach, we're opening up our lives, and there's this imprint process. There's this thing that happens. It's called discipleship. It's why Jesus didn't disciple by letters. He did it face to face. He chose 12 people to do life with, where he spoke into their life. He imparted something into their life, and he shared his life with them. So I was saying to some of our leaders recently, just because people are leading for you doesn't mean you're leading them. And discipleship is about leadership, leading people and helping people and maturing people. And that's what this is key. This is key right now to being a mature person, a whole holistic form human being, a disciple of Jesus that's totally connected with what God's doing in your life, requires other people, and it's a face-to-face thing. And where does joy come in? Well, it's your ability to overcome the differences, cross the floor, love someone who's difficult. People who are broken, or people who are in different stages of life, or people who are deficient in some areas or struggling in some areas where we show grace. It starts with joy. It starts with joy. Some people say, I think it's about trust. I've been hurt in the past and my trust has been really broken down. It's actually not trust isn't the main thing. It's the joy factor. Because when you have things happen, you can still come back from it with joy, because the imprint with God makes all the difference. And so we're supposed to do that in discipleship. Now, church, discipleship, someone else asked recently, what is discipleship? Well, it's that imprint process. It's that one-to-one, face-to-face process where we care for one another, where we validate, where we call out to, there's correction and stuff. But, even with my kids, when they make mistakes, they can make huge mistakes. But you know what? I love them. Growing up as a kid, I used to break everything. I used to drive my parents crazy. I used to break all sorts of stuff. I remember one night my parents said, Nath, we're going out to this small group thing, and you've got to go to your small group, so leave at the same time as us so you don't break anything. And I was like, okay. And I'd gone through a number of weeks of just breaking stuff around the house, like walls, smashing walls and all sorts of things. And so I said, okay. And then I left at the same time as them. And then I remembered I'd forgotten something. So I went home to go get this thing and then start back out on my journey to my small group. It was a small group night. And my brother's in the backyard playing with a golf club. And I went, give me a go, while I was there for that little 2-minute reminder. And I hit the golf ball and it went flying to the end of the yard, hit the fence, came back, bounced past me and smashed a window. And I went, I'm going. And I was out of there. And my dad was like, what have you done? When he got home, you broke another window in that one time I told you to leave at the same time. There's always love, right? So what I'm getting back to is joy kind of helps us frame how we disciple, how we love people, how we engage with people, how we build friendships. It also helps us come back from difficult times where we find joy. Now, maybe you're in a business situation, you've had a difficult year, you need joy. Maybe you had a few marriage problems or just challenges you're going through that are affecting or a weight on your marriage. You need joy. And you're responsible for your joy, but you also impart it to other people. So one another. You impart joy over your children. You bring joy into church, into your small group. You bring joy into your prayer life. I saw some funny exercises that you can do to kind of get your relational brain open that tap into the joy part of your brain, which is hilarious. I'm not going to share them because they're too wacky. It'll freak you out. I might play them one day in church. Really funny. But opening ourselves up and getting ourselves aware that joy is an important thing, because we enter his gates with what? Thanksgiving in our heart, and enter his courts with praise. That's joy. We don't come in going, we stir ourselves up. So as we come into this year, we're getting momentum, church. We are getting momentum. I want to encourage you to start to look to God for joy. And there are going to be areas where you feel deficient, or you feel low, or you're hitting question marks, like, why aren't I feeling it? Or where am I at right now? 9 times out of 10, this is going to be a joy thing. And when we start with joy, we learn. When we start the day with joy, we grab it. We get on the front foot. I want to encourage you, in your prayer life, start with joy. With your relationships, start with joy. When you come to small group, come with joy. And it'll just rub off. It's going to rub off, and it just opens doors in people's hearts. And God designed us to be filled with great joy, because when he looks at us, when he looks at you, it's not judgment, condemnation, or trying to isolate you. No, he doesn't want to throw you away. He wants to bring you in closer into his joy. He feels great joy when he sees you, when he looks at you, when he considers you. So let's just get that into our hearts. It's going to make all the difference when we come in our small groups and interact with one another. in discipleship, in our relationships. It's a key. It really is. Hey, have a great week. Thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions, feel free to just reach out to us. Send us an email or even just DM us on Instagram. We're around. We're available. We love you. Have a great week.